and welcome to the second episode of Bet on People. And this week on Bob, we are going to be talking about non-linear career paths. And I have Nasir with me. For those of you that don't know him, he has dabbled in many different fields in his 10-year-long career path. From working at a call center to social media, graphic design, event space manager, and public relations, he has sunk his hands in many pots. But at the end of the day, his expertise is in the field of improv, which he has been doing consistently for the last 10 years. Essentially, Nasir is an improv performer, director, and trainer. He teaches the art of improv, comedy, and storytelling to beginners, performers, and corporates alike. Wow, that's an impressive, I think, 10-year long career. You've basically tried everything. I mean, all the generic careers that we know of, and some really non-mainstream ones, especially improv. So,
I missed one out. I missed one out. I also worked for a cinematographer in Bombay. I was
oh wow.
doing marketing for the cinematographer.
Wait, so you were doing marketing for the cinematographer? That's
Yes,
crazy.
yes.
And is it safe to say that you don't have formal education in any of these realms?
That's true. My educational background is that I have graduated in history and political science. And this is a Bachelor of Arts degree that I got all the way back in 2010. Since then, it's just been finding out what is it that I want to do with work and jumping across all of these different hoops of fields of and industries of interest that I thought I had.
So I just want to go back to the beginning and talk about when you were doing that degree. What motivated you to do that degree in the first place?
Well, it's what I wasn't able to do that I had to do this. So I was actually looking forward to doing something in the area of. No, actually, I had the option of picking between literature and history, political science, and history, political science both. So, literature is something that I was awfully bad in. After having done 2 years or more of literature, I realized that since that was one of the options, I was not going to fare well in it. So I put that aside. Then I had just history and just political science, 6 subjects, 6 papers in each. And I realized I don't like both of those completely, but maybe I can tolerate both of those if they were in 50% of each. So that's when I chose to go in for a part major with 3 papers in history, 3 papers in political science. None of this was because I had a deep, profound interest in either of them. It was just because that is what I had as my choices.
So did you have something in mind about like what you would do after your degree?
Yeah. I wanted to become a rock star. I was learning how to play the guitar, not just the acoustic, but also the electric guitar. I performed on my college stage as well. I used to perform on a more or less semi-regular basis on my college stage. But things changed after. As time goes, your interests, priorities, and circumstances change what the things you had in mind were and what they eventually become.
So you went from a rock star to what was the first job that you had?
The first job that I had was to work at a call center, and this was the Shamagdav Institute of Performing Arts call center. This was in Bombay, and since I actually was a student, a dance student at this institute, where I was learning dance a couple of years before. So, say about 2020 to 2007, 2008, I was a participant, a student, and enrolled for the dance classes. So, I was fairly familiar with the institute. And then when I got to know that they have openings for the call center position, I went in, gave my interview, and instantly, the very next day after I gave my final paper, is when I started.
So, what prompted you to even want to work at a call center, or was it the fact that it was Shamak Tower?
Uh, there was familiarity, one, and I remember this piece of advice that one of my teachers, history teachers, gave. She said that after you graduate, try and work for a couple of years to see what it's like um, to, s- to just know where it is that you stand when it comes to what your real world interest is in. So I took that advice uh, to action. And right after graduation, I thought, okay, I'll just plunge myself into work. And the call center work, since it was the first one and I was familiar with a few of the people there that came along, I instantly went into it.
That's a very interesting concept, like real world interest, because I think when you are growing up or you're in school, college, you have these ideas of what these careers will look like. And people are exposed to these mainstream careers way more than, I mean, I think even working at a call center is something that people would probably know what that might look like. But some of the other things that you've done, right? What is it like being an improv trainer? I don't think that anybody could imagine that, because there aren't enough people to look up to that way. So real world interest, was it, did you find that at the call center, or was it just a stopgap for you?
Yeah, it was just this 2 month stint that I did over there. And I moved on. It was like, okay, I have seen this, I've given my best for it, but probably this is not for me. And I moved on from there. From there, I started that. It was right after I finished my 2 month gig at the call center that I ended up doing my first ever improv workshop again in Bombay. And this was back in July 2010. And once I did my workshop, I kind of got exposed to this world of improv and theater also, having never done either of these before. A little bit of it in college, but nothing to an extent that would stick to memory. Um, and once I did take this workshop, it felt exciting to know more. What is there in this newfound universe that I've just tapped into? So uh, with a few weeks as passing, what happened is I thought, okay, maybe I want to find work in the area of theater. So that's when I enrolled to volunteer for a theater festival. This theater festival is called HESPO. It's a very well known theater festival that has been running for the past 10 years in Bombay, and it's an only under 25 theater festival. So whoever participates has to be under 25 years of age. Whatever production they bring, everybody has to be under 25 years of age. So I enrolled to volunteer in the production and prepping of the festival that would happen a few months later. So gradually, in about for 2 to 3 months, this is what I was working on.
So did they pay you to be a volunteer,
Yes,
or
yeah. So it was just volunteer basis. So I couldn't sustain not being paid for that long. So then eventually, then I had someone from my family mention that there is a cinematographer friend they have who was looking for a marketing person. So that's where the marketing work came about, and I signed up for it.
So, did you have any sort of fear doing marketing when you didn't have a formal education to back you up?
Yeah. What was the difficult part about that is back in those days when there was no when social media wasn't a big thing. It was about uh, taking the phone, dialing numbers, and telling people, "Okay, I have this and this. Would you be interested in knowing more?" So, just someone who had walked out of college. I was someone who was also pretty introverted in college, to be honest. Um, yeah, that sort of didn't play to my strengths, and I wasn't able to get a single deal for 3 months that I worked there. Not a single deal. Eventually, the employer and I both sort of like decided I'm not cut out to do this. And 3 months since the time I joined, I then had to let go of it.
So, what do you think were your top takeaways from this marketing and sales job?
My top takeaways: speak more confidently over the phone. And that kind of speaking with confidence. So it comes with time. I mean, you can't really learn how to be confident. It's sort of just it's a thing where when you live life, right? Basically, you live life and it builds that way. So that's one. Um, some people are able to foster that inner confidence early on, some later on. So that's one. The other thing is, I was commuting for an hour and a half to reach the office for this marketing and sales work, and I was worn out every single day. So the other lesson is, I didn't want to commute so much to do a job. That was the second thing. The third one is, third one is I because this guy was cinematographer. He had a lot of these film books, just stacked. So many books about movies, uh, about directors, film biographies, so on and so forth. And there would be days when I would, you know, just read those books over there. And that's where I kind of developed this newfound interest in cinema. So that's another thing that I learned from this job. nothing to do, nothing to do with
Nothing
the
to do
job
with
per
the
se.
job, but yeah, I think those are very important realizations to have. And it became like the gateway for you to appreciate cinema on a whole different level.
Yes, which has stayed with me. I mean, cinema has become a big part of my life today, and it started back then.
Amazing. So then what happens once you decide that this is not a good fit? What what was the next hop?
We're still in year 2010. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think I'm going to need to draw a timeline for everybody.
Yeah. So then I'll skip some stuff here and there. Then I went into business development for a public relations firm that had newly started in Malad in Bombay. And I don't recall how is it that I got to know this new person, uh, but somehow I was able to find out that they were looking for someone to do business management, business development. I signed in, I got selected, and I was the only other employee besides the boss himself. So, so again, it's like I'm signing up for these jobs that is just two people trying to float a business together. Um, and it was here that when I was trying to do business development, which is sort of like making presentations about what this company is. And this was basically a public relations company. Uh, uh, the strengths, the USPs, all of those things, just making PPTs. And in doing that is where I found my interest in social media. So trying to find out places online where I could drop in a presentation about this company, where I could, talk a little about the company and say, this is what we do, this is the services we give. That's where I developed a little bit of an interest in social media. And from business development, I slowly kind of did a caveat and turned to social media management over here.
And creating these PPTs, did that spark your interest in graphic design?
No, not yet, not yet. Graphic design comes a little later.
Okay, so how are you creating these PPTs, PowerPoint back then?
Oh, these were PPTs using the template itself that PowerPoint had. So it was the basic looking one PPTs.
Wow, it's been so long since I've looked at PowerPoint. Feels like almost like another lifetime ago. And which year are we in with this business development
Yeah,
job?
in 2012. 2012.
Okay, so we've skipped 2 years. Great. So then you decide that, okay, social media management is it. But before we get to that, what's happening at home? Like, how do people back at home perceive your eclectic career so far? You doing stints at jobs for like 2 3 months and then deciding that you don't like it, or then deciding that this is something that I want to try?
It was fine. It was fine. There was no backlash. I think that I was keeping myself occupied, and I was getting paid for these things also, irrespective of whether I was lasting in them or not. I was getting paid for whatever time I was in there, and that was fine. So at the end of the day, there was no issues.
And what about people around you, like your friends? Did they have a say in it? I'm just trying to understand this from somebody who would choose a linear career path, right? So by the time you are experimenting, they probably like settled in their careers.
Remember if there were any opinions from friends about this, but from what I can vaguely recall is that I started making friends in improv, right? And the people I started doing improv with was the group I would hang out with most often. And those were that group of people were freelancers already. So when these were creative people who were into acting, who were into uh, directing, uh, and others who were trying to find work in acting, directing, writing, so on and so forth. So they were all basically freelancers, and I think that is probably the reason why nobody who was able to be the opposition and say, okay, full time kyun nahi kar leta. So yeah, it was more or less the same. I was the one, in fact, who was doing full time stuff, while they were the ones who were half freelancers.
Yeah, I think that is a very good sort of like friend group to have when people with you are doing the same stuff. You can learn from each other, refer each other, because if somebody does this and you have a completely different set of people who are settled in their jobs and whether they like it or not, they have this idea of their perfect career, but while you still try to figure it out, I think that would cause a lot of friction, or even the fact that they might not be as supportive as somebody who's going through the same journey. So it's I think it's very important to sort of have that, but we'll get into how that helped you. But I want to hear about the social media thing. So in 2012, I'm trying to remember what I was doing. I was still in school back then. And I think that I was just on Facebook because Orkut had died a couple of years ago. Facebook was the go to. So, was Facebook the platform that you were using as well?
Facebook, yes, and then Twitter also came along. I remember I got so captivated by Twitter. I uh, I would eat my dinner with Twitter open on my laptop. So that's how crazy interested I got in knowing about how things worked, how ideas were promoted on these platforms, and gradually I realized that okay, in order to get more attention, you need to have good looking pictures. I mean, which is still the case right now. But once I realized that back then, I then started, dabbling with Photoshop in order to be able to make striking creatives, post it on social media, and then get responses if any came. So that's where also I started making my foray into graphic design. Very basic level, but that's when it started.
And you're doing this for yourself, or were you doing this for some company?
I was still working at that public relations company.
Okay, but then you started doing social media for them.
Yeah, started doing social media. I worked there for about 10 months, and this was probably mid 2012 where I became a freelancer. Some way, somehow, I was able to find work. People who I sort of like through connections. I don't recollect where, but I was able to find say someone who's working in a company who wanted to outsource just a little bit of social media handling to somebody else, just an independent person. So that's where I came along. And I remember I did this for a Godrej, ended up doing handling some Twitter stuff for Godrej. I ended up handling social media for a Subhash Ghai movie that was releasing, and I ended up doing social media for a new chain of restaurants called Fishiteria. Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah. So were you also putting out your own stuff apart from what your company was doing? Did you have a
I was also trying to be all cool, especially on Twitter, trying to post about my day, respond wittily to other people's tweets, all of that.
I think that that's still how Twitter is today. I think humor is the backbone of Twitter.
Well, if I can be all completely on, Twitter has turned into a dog piece of place right now. I cannot stand it because everybody has so much of hate for one another, and you have this small little message box where uh, you don't have the scope to understand the context where the person is coming from. You don't have the scope to understand what is the complete uh, the complete zone of the viewpoint of the person behind which they posted that short message. And everybody, if they don't like something, they are going to mock it, insult the person, ridicule, instead of challenging it with a with a point of their own in a very civilized way. That doesn't happen. So that sort of becomes a dog pile piece of shit place to be in.
But do you think that with reducing attention spans, people are interested in other people's opinions anyway? So I mean, take Instagram for example. It's a visually dominant platform, right? You have captions, you could write something in your stories and give that option to swipe left, right, whatever it is, or you could write something in your stories. But does that give you an accurate representation of who this person is, what they're trying to say. Maybe you're bound by characters on Twitter. I know that people have like entire threads when they want to say something very important. But I don't think any social media platform is set up to help you learn about somebody else's point of view unless you want to have like a one-on-one conversation with them, or you choose to engage with that person.
Precisely. So at the core of it, it doesn't um, foster dialogue, which results in two parties understanding each other better. It instead fosters difference, fosters a lot of ego because of the difference of opinion, and that it doesn't give the opportunity to embrace a dialogue.
I get that. But I also think that Twitter especially has become like the go-to resource for people right now during the pandemic, and it has saved lives, a lot of lives. And it's actually it goes to show that what people say is true. It depends on how you use the platform. It's not so much to do with the platform itself, right? The users make the platform. I know that you've quit social media recently, and I do want to get into that.
Yeah. So that's a big topic altogether by itself, and I do have many points about it.
But what I'm trying to say is people's words can get twisted, even well meaning words, even, or in fact, forget that. Even if I say something wrong on Twitter and people drag me for it, right? And that to them is vengeance, that's revenge served. But how does that help me as a person? I'm just going to make the same mistake again. And because the world works that way, right? You have echo chamber. So whatever I say, there will be people who will also support what I've said. So in that case, I'm just going to, have people who support me. And while what I say is wrong, I'm not going to learn from it, right? So that whole cancel culture thing has it completely wrong. Like if you want somebody to do better, you don't mock them, you don't ridicule them. You give them space and you give them that opportunity to learn. But again, I mean, it also has to do with the person. Like I have to be willing to listen and be willing to learn. Okay, so then you decide that you want to become a freelancer. You become a freelancer. At that point,
I then also take up content writing while I'm doing social media. So I took up content writing for a friend who owned a 3D a 3D modeling company, a company that would make 3D models for architects who wanted their new construction projects to look complete. So they would not only design those 3D models, but also have brochures made. So for those brochures, I would come up with content.
it's actually, yeah, that's actually content writing slash copywriting, because you have to be succinct and you have to make sense. So then I guess Twitter did play a part here, because at that point you had 140 characters to play with. Very interesting. So how do you go about, let's say I want to learn graphic design, right? Back then, how did you find those resources? Because today I could just probably Google it, I could take a course on Coursera, whatever, and I could say that at least I know the basics of graphic design. Back then, how was it different?
Um, so it had a lot to do with playing with the software on your own. That was one. And in playing with the software on my own, I was able to at least get some of the basic level designs in place. And if I want to do something specific, then I had to look up for videos. And there were videos that were existing even then. Videos of, say, how to airbrush a face, how to make Emma Watson, Emma Watson's image prettier than she already was. So all of those kinds of videos were there.
Emma Watson prettier than she already was. I think I'm gonna switch up this lighting because it's getting too dark and I look like I'm in a dungeon trying to kill somebody. Okay. Yeah, this is not the best lighting, but we make do. Progress is more important than perfection. Cool. So then YouTube became your teacher, like it is even today, I think, for everybody. Like if I don't know how to do something, YouTube.
Absolutely. Uh, and as my social media work came on, I started clubbing graphic design also. So it wasn't just, coming up with social media campaign content ideas. It was also how to use images. And as I was building my graphic design skills, I kind of put those two together, and it would only add to my repertoire of work.
Yeah, it becomes a complete package. You know how to do social media, you know how to design the creatives, and you know how to write copy for it.
Uh,
So you basically become like a small agency of your own, like a social media agency.
Correct. Yes, yes. And then comes 2014 when I decided to move out of Bombay. And with that thought, at least, came knocking on my door a chance to work at a company in Bangalore that organized running races. And they were looking for someone to manage the social media profile. So that's when I signed up. When I keep saying sign up, that's when I wrote to them. I went to their interview and things worked out. And by late 2014, I moved to Bangalore.
This is very interesting. So everything that you've done, I I've noticed a pattern. You say that you signed up or you showed up, you gave the interview, you got selected. So what is it that you're doing in these interviews that you keep getting selected everywhere? Did you face rejection at all? Or was it just like yes, 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 like you're in?
Well, the first two, three places that I had to give an interview at, especially the call center job, the job with the cinematographer and public relations company, these were uh, the call center was like just 8 people managing the calls. So they weren't looking for exceptional qualities. They were only looking for the basic communication skills, which I had. So I was able to get through. Then the second one came was because of relative recommended, and because the relative put in a good word, I was able to get that with the cinematographer. The third one is where it was a small enterprise just starting off, so they couldn't really do a long, lengthy hiring process. So uh, again, I looked fine, I sounded fine, and I got hired. When it came to the job in Bangalore, I had to go there, do like an interview with the CEO and a couple of other heads. And that is where it was a proper interview where I was asked stuff. I was I was told about what the company is, and it was a whole new ball game because this company organizes races for things. And I was a runner back then. Actually, I was a runner.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, why did you even want to work there?
Yes. So I started running in 2012, and by 2014, I I was going for I was to become an endurance athlete. I was running 60-kilometer runs. I was running 75-kilometer runs, and all of that. I was traveling to different cities: Pune, Goa. I went to Corbett to participate in runs, half marathons. So with 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 my interest in running, it fit over there. and they saw this, and yeah, I got through. And I also had social media experience, so yeah,
So what was the position at this company?
it was social media manager, social media executive.
Interesting. So then your love for running plus your social media experience paid off. And during this interview process, did you feel like, obviously it was different than the previous times, but were you nervous at all? Or did you just sort of like, because you were going with the flow, you were like, okay, I'm going to get this?
I don't remember how I was, whether nervous or not. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, I am asking you to remember something that happened 7-ish years ago. So, no, what I'm trying to understand is you've done a lot, right? You've done various things and you've experimented up to that point, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of fear or hesitation. And I'm just trying to figure out, did you?
so yes, so that's a great observation. So there was no fear, hesitation in, you know, acting on my choices. That okay, this is something that I want to go do now. This is something that I don't want to do now. But when it came to talking to people that way about yes in a scenario like an interview, I think yeah I would feel a little bit of a nervousness, and that is pretty much yeah natural for me. I would even though after all these years, even today, um, as much confident as the person I've become even now, I would still sort of feel a little bit of a nervousness, tingle of nervousness that comes about even today. So I think back then it would have been a little more.
I think that's normal. I mean, we all, I mean, just you and I know what
Yeah,
I did before this call. So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's pretty normal.
Sticking to that point, even if it's nervousness, I think I still answer what I want to say. Uh, but the fact that I was younger back then, I didn't have a lot to say about worldly knowledge. Didn't have anything of that. So I would just, kind of answer to the point. And if they liked my answer to the point, great. So that worked.
Yeah. So I was just saying that I think maybe you weren't scared or you weren't afraid because, like you said, you were acting on your choices. These were your choices, not fed by the family, not fed by society, friends, whoever. You wanted to do something and you went ahead and you found a way to do it, which is amazing. I think a lot of people, it's very difficult to make this sort of like connection, right? Like, if I want to do this, then I can find a way to do it. Because you get comfortable, you get into this some sort of like a comfort zone where you have money coming in, or you worry about what people are going to say. Because at this age, oh, why do you not have like a full-fledged career, or why are you not making as much money as somebody else? So what was your motivation throughout the process? Were you just trying to figure out what you like doing and what you wanted to keep doing for the rest of your life, or is it just the fact that you were able to experiment that you just enjoyed the process, there isn't like a destination in mind?
I think it's the second thing. I was just going with whatever, going with my where I felt I wanted to go without seeking an end to it. And that's sort of what let me be. I mean, and there's also the thing where okay, you spend some time into that job, and you realize okay, you every day you start feeling a little and little less excited about it. So there are people who are able to ignore that and continue doing the work. and that's well and good. Uh, for me, if I'm just getting too much, then I want to act on it. I want to act on it, and if it means saying bye bye to the job, then I'll say bye bye to the job, uh, and then of course seek something else. And when I want to seek something else after that, probably that previous one ended, I don't think I'll look for the same stream, the same exact type of work. Um, I'll keep my eyes open, and if there is something which catches my fancy, and I know, okay, this is something that I can actually do, that I like, or if I don't know the ins and outs of how to do it, I can learn how to go about it. Then I'll go for it. I'll just go for it.
So learning is the biggest, I think, outcome for you. Being able to learn something new.
Yes, and from everything that I've done, yeah, as I said, some or the other valuable lesson, whether it's skill based, whether it's insight based, or whether it's just an advice, one line of advice that I've received, it's all been learning that has come about with all of that.
I mean, I wish I had that courage to do just that. Because there's so many things that I feel like I wanted to do, and I guess I still want to do. But it's not that fear holds me back, it's the fear of setting myself back. So if I've made this much progress in, let's say, what I'm doing right now, which is content marketing, then if I try something else and that doesn't work out, then I've set myself back, right? So for me, it's important to keep doing what I'm doing and then to try something on the side so that I can experience that and I can immerse myself in it without giving up what I'm doing already, which is why freelancing is so important to me, because it allows me to work with other companies, I mean, these are all like passion projects. To do the things or to like focus on one aspect of what I'm doing full time and just do that to see if I like doing that. And then maybe, I can decide if this is something I want to do forever. And it's just because I'm a little averse to taking that risk where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do something else. But I think that's just a safer way, at least that in my opinion, it's a safer way to sort of keep trying new things. um, because I'm not sure that this is for everybody. What you have done is very brave. You've decided to quit jobs or like quit working for people, and in some cases you may not have had like a next, like, okay, this is what I want to do next, right? I'm guessing that that would have been the case sometimes. So that is definitely high risk but also high reward for sure.
I just wanted to say that there might be many people out there who do not have a choice, right? If they get into one thing, they have to keep doing it because that is their only way of staying sustained. Whether it's just for them or whether it's even for their family. Um, and those are who who are and it's those very people who can break the mold, who are able to not just keep themselves and the family sustained with whatever they make, but at the same time break the niche of their own life and do something different, something that they really know they want to do. um, I think those people would be at a far more have to undergo a lot more risk, and the fruits of it should be more rewarded than actually me.
So do you think that you had privilege in that case because you were able to take a risk and maybe had some sort of safety net?
Well, I do live in a house that is owned by family, so the rent wasn't something that I had to pay back then. That's it. Yeah.
But then that's not much of a safety net. I mean, yes, you do save a lot on rent and utilities. Um, but that, I think, that is a huge chunk of people's, like, where the money goes. I really want to know about the improv part in general. I think we've talked about how you made it to Bangalore and you started working with this company that does races. But you've been doing improv for the last 10 years consistently. So then how did this entire improv director, trainer, and all of that come about?
So after I did that first workshop in Bombay in June 2010, July 2010, I stayed consistent throughout all those jobs in going in for improv practices, doing shows wherever I got the chance to do shows. And that continued till 2014 when I even till at the time I moved to Bangalore. Now, once I moved to Bangalore, I had my work that was Monday to Friday and sometimes Saturdays also. But then in the evenings, I was free. In the evenings, because there was nothing else occupying my mind, I started thinking about improv, and I'm beginning to miss it. So that's where gradually, after settling in for a first few months over there in Bangalore, I then began to check out the scene, the comedy scene, the live performance scene of the city. And once I did that, I, I started meeting these comedians over there. Started meeting comedians and telling them, okay, I do improv, maybe we can jam together sometime or the other. And the word starts spreading about. And gradually, as the word started spreading about, I started telling more and more people, okay, this is what I do. And with that, I ended up eventually setting up my first show, which was in July 2015. I had put together this interested lot of people who, some from theater background, some from the comedy background, and we did our first show together. And the show was so great, not just in terms of the audience turnout, not just in terms of maybe even the quality of it, but also in terms of how we felt while doing it. And all of those was on such a positive note that all of us decided, okay, let's keep doing this. Let's keep doing this on a consistent basis. And that's where I ended up forming a group called Improv Comedy Bangalore. And once that group was formed, we realized, okay, we are a ensemble of performers who are into this art form, and we should keep doing this art form on a consistent basis because we felt so good doing it the first time. From there, the shows that we did month on month happened, and from the shows we started to slowly move towards jams where anyone and everyone could come try out improv on their own. We did a few of these in Cubbon Park, and that sort of just kept steam balling, snowballing snowballing into something larger and larger and larger. More people started talking about improv in the city of Bangalore. The word of mouth about this performance art started spreading. People were curious to find out, participate, learn, watch, all of these things. So, so from 2015 onwards, it multiplied fourfold and in a new city for me. So that was something amazing.
Just took a life of its own, I think, once you realize that you basically had everything working for you. You were learning something new, you were feeling great doing it, and you had a great group of people to do it with.
Yes, and I was doing a full-time job at the same time.
And this was the same social media management thing?
Yeah, that's social media work for the running company.
And how long did you work there, if I may ask?
So I worked there altogether of 3.5 years.
Wow. I mean, from 2 months to 3.5 years, I mean, you must have loved that job.
4 years in total, but the 6 months that I'm not counting uh, was as a distant employee. I started working for them from Bombay itself, and then once I moved there, then it was 3.5 years physically. Yes, and while I was doing this full-time job, yeah. So improv was on the side.
And then did improv take center stage when it started to take off and everything? And did you like then quit your job
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
improv full time?
Yes, because the fact that I there was so much more personal growth that I was finding because of doing improv. That I would get angry when I didn't have the opportunity to do that. I would get frustrated when work would come in the way, and I'm like, I'm not able to do that. And though my position from doing social media changed to eventually doing graphic design in the same company, I also became a very good graphic designer, excellent graphic designer, and I would make not only doing my job at work, I was making graphic designs for my improv shows also, and I would love doing those.
Yeah, I've seen your work. It's amazing.
Yeah, word spread, and in 2017, 18 or so, I started making graphic design posters for comedians also. So there were a lot of days when after work, if I didn't have any improv, I would take up freelance graphic design work, and I would make these posters for comedians. So 2015, 16, 17, and 18. 18 is when I quit the job, this graphic designing job for the running company, and I took on something completely different, entirely off the charts. I became a event space manager for a new space that had opened up in Kormangla.
How
And
how even did you say that, okay, I want to do this? Can I ask you something? Has your life become improv? And I don't mean that has your life become improv as in like improv is your life. I mean, do you think that you've just been using the same techniques when it comes to life and making decisions?
same techniques when it comes to making decisions. Well,
What I mean to say is that it's very spontaneous, you know? You're not thinking too much or not overthinking, you're not doing the pros and cons thing, which is what I usually do. I overthink stuff. I do like a pros cons list.
okay. But it may seem like I'm not putting in much thought, but I am putting in thought for these decisions. I'm, of course, definitely not overthinking it, but I am offering it a fair share of thought. Now, when I moved on to the event space manager work, the reason I picked that in the first place because I was one getting a little saturated with my current job back then, and this art space thing would bring me closer to improv. If I'm in an art space, and that art space means that I can do more of my art, that means I've come closer to doing improv full time in a way. So that's the reason why I picked it. Um, and since I had already kind of like done a lot of my own improv events, right? All the way from talking to venue owners, pitching them the idea, organizing the entire performance, setting everything up. I knew how to, set up an event from zero to its final finish. So I knew the basics of all of that and how to go about it. So that played to my strength when I went in and spoke to the owners of the art space. And I eventually joined the work. It was great. I mean, I was the only other employee over there. Same pattern.
I would be surprised if you weren't.
I was the only other employee over there.
When did you start doing improv full time?
And after about a year of working for the event space, I I was like, okay, I want to now, um, I want to just sink my teeth in improv, see what the world of performance and improv and comedy has in store. And that's when I quit my event space job and I just, you know, dove in, dove in to improv. So I would say by the latter half 2019 is when I was full time into improv. The initial months, they felt good. They felt good, but then the pinch started happening when um, the the monetary stuff was not coming in as much as it usually did when I had work full time work back me up. And come 2020, when once the pandemic hit, then it like just hit me right in the balls. I was not able to not only get any opportunity of finding work in improv, because I mean, who gave a shit about improv when that happened? Nobody would. Uh, so I was just kind of sustaining myself with graphic design at that point of time, and that's when I thought, okay, uh, I mean, Bangalore is slowly and gradually becoming a place where um, maybe improv is not the right market for it, because I love performance, I love acting. Bombay is the right place, is what I thought, and it is. It's the performance capital. The film industry is here. All the creative individuals are over here creating things, and I thought, okay, let's move here. Let's move to Bombay. Let's see what Bombay has in store for me. So 6 years later, after I moved to Bangalore, I then decided to take my full-time improv and move to Bombay. But and once I moved here, it's been a little difficult because I have to re-acclimatize myself to what this city is, how work happens over here, how do people connect with one another, what are the opportunities that I can find. So I'm still in the process of doing that. And with lockdowns happening every 6 months, uh, I I I kind of get thrown off the tracks of doing that. I'm a few steps behind, so I have to keep walking forward over and over again, recovering those steps. So yeah, that's how it is.
Do you think that you could take it online, improv? Is it possible? Because I think that there's a lot of physical comedy involved, right? But do you think that it's possible to make it virtual?
So I have taken improv virtual for a large part of 2020. Being at home, there were a lot of improv shows that I participated in, and how I will admit it was exciting at first. The high was there. That was the thing that would keep me happy. But then a certain saturation point hit. That to have done so much of wonderful stuff offline and to then just congregate myself to this one little screen, and that's not the true potential of my it doesn't help express what I can actually do and bring.
Yeah, I think your cat agrees.
Yeah, and neither can an audience fully see the scope of what it is that I can do.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, taking events online is I mean, it's an absolute nightmare, because you miss the entire like I'm talking from like a consumer standpoint, right? For me to watch something online, which is not necessarily online, like a music festival, you're not really getting the entire like the feel of it, the vibe of it. So I get it. And I mean, for a performer either, I mean, you don't get to interact with the crowd, you don't get to see what they're
And
saying.
everything, and it's not just me and my improv. Everything online has just lost its sheen for me. I don't watch anything. I don't watch any performances online. I don't even watch any interviews that have been conducted online.
Will you be watching this one at least?
No, no, I was just pulling your leg. I don't watch any performances. I don't even feel like. I mean, this is very constricting. I would much rather wait for things to open up and see people in the full bloom in person. And I am waiting for that. I'm okay being patient with that.
Yeah, I think sometimes patience is definitely key. And then while that happens, I guess graphic design is still going strong for you.
Um, well, I mean, I can always be 100% in receiving graphic design work. So for the time being, there isn't any. It comes and goes. It comes and goes. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm writing for a tech blog. So I'm writing specifically OTT related technological content for a blog.
And you're not on social media anymore.
Yeah, so that's fine. It's not correlated. It's not correlated.
No, I'm not saying that it is correlated, but don't you think that a lot of these trends hit social media first? And I think Netflix, I don't know too much about Prime's marketing, but Netflix does a lot of great stuff online on social media.
So it's even more technical than that. So it's not really finding the pattern of how they operate in social media, but it's more of the back end of it. So that's what I'm.
So you don't necessarily need social media. So if somebody were to sort of get in touch with you to talk to you about improv or graphic design, or just to talk to you about how to get over that fear, because that was one of the questions that I got, like how do you even get over that fear? How would somebody contact you? They'll like send you a letter and post it?
Nah, I mean, pigeons are a great way. I'm always open to receiving letters from pigeons. So if they can do that, nothing like it. But they can actually, just Google me. If they are really keen on finding out about what is it that I do, if the name Nasir ever hits their heads, they can Google me. If not, if they want to find out if there is someone who teaches improv in Bombay, they can Google for improv and maybe my search will come up, hopefully. But if it's say someone who already knows me and wants to get in touch with me, well, either they have my number or they don't.
Yeah, I know, I get that. But if somebody watching or listening to this wants to get in touch with you, they should, I guess, land on your website. We can do that. We can link to your website.
Yes. It's very simple. NasirEngineer.com.
Great. I mean, thank you so much for doing this. I know you
Yeah,
have to go,
absolutely.
and we really didn't get to go into your acting work, which I want to do. So maybe we'll do like another follow-up if you're up for it.
Yeah, there is so much to share. Honestly, if we can have another
Yeah,
follow-up,
I'm trying to
nothing like it.
compress an entire 10-year timeline into like a 40-minute podcast. It's impossible. So I'd love to do like a follow-up, but thank you for doing this, for agreeing to do this. And I hope that this turns out well. And I definitely want you to watch this for sure.
Yeah, I will.